what I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have.
I've had rainbows in my clouds. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud.
We all really, really love one another. Deep down, we all love one another, and we need to get back to that.
Hi, I'm Dr. Julie Ducharme, and welcome to the Authentically You podcast. I am really excited to be back here with someone who's become a great friend to me over the last couple of years, and that is Vernice Fly Girl. Vernice, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here with you, Julie.
And for those of you who may not know, Vernice was the first African-American female combat pilot. With a long list of accolades, she is very humble, but she is also an inspiring person that not only travels the country and internationally. If I remember recently, not too long ago, you were overseas, inspiring businesses, companies, women, men, and more. And, I think it's been about 2 years since we last chatted on this podcast, if I remember right.
It has been a minute, so it's great to be back.
Well, for those of you who want to check out more on Vernice, I'm going to give this throughout the podcast, but her website is, and actually I will, which is the best one? Because I know you have a couple.
VerniceArmour.com is the website, and Vernice Fly Girl Armour is for most of the social media, except for Twitter, because that was too long, so it's at Vernice Armour for Twitter. But everything else, Vernice Fly Girl Armour, you'll find me.
Perfect. That's why I want to make sure I got it right. So we've been talking for the last several weeks, Vernice, on a lot of stuff that's going on, obviously, with COVID-19. You're a successful entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur as well. And, we've been talking about dealing with this. And you and I were both talking off air about how it just was kind of like overnight, everything got shut down. And maybe we could talk about how you've been dealing with that. Because I know I mentioned I kind of been going through this grieving process. My business of 18 years is just completely shut, no income. And I'm now trying to figure out what's the next step. How do I get creative? And so how have you been dealing with this?
Yeah, so at the end of February, I knew things were going to get real quick. And actually, back in the beginning of February, I remember before it came over, talking to my friends who are mostly entrepreneurs, and I said, hey, if you need to take out a loan, take it out now, because when crap hits the fan, you're not going to be able to get a loan. And sure enough, that's what happened. Now, why I didn't listen to my own advice, I don't know. but as things progressed further, on March 2nd, I had a keynote on March 9th and 19th. Both of those got canceled. And then all the keynotes canceled as far as the eye could see. And in that moment, when things really started to set in, and I was home for more than a week and a half, which was crazy that I usually wasn't. It's like, okay, wait a minute. I could feel a little bit of sadness or depression as well. I put a video out to my social media family. And what I decided to do was, go for a ride on my horse. I took my journal. And when I got there, got Reba, that's her name. She was all saddled up, ready to go. I was on her. I realized I'd left my journal in the car. So I just went on the ride anyway and said, I'll just ride and I'll come back. And what I was really trying to do was connect with nature, connect with myself, not go into a panic of going from six-figure months to literally zero. Why? Because I didn't have my content online. I hadn't done virtual presentations, from my home. I'd done webinars and things like that, but I hadn't transitioned to virtual like I kept saying I was going to do for years. So a part of me felt like I was kicking myself in the butt for not being more prepared, because if I'd done what I was supposed to do just by diversifying my income anyway as a speaker, it would have been already set up for when companies were switching from in-person meetings to virtual meetings. So feeling a little behind the curve. And when I was out there on my horse, in nature, in the woods, on the trail, what I really reflected on was, I used to get excited when people lost their jobs back in the recession. And people say, wait a minute, why are you excited? I'm like, because now you can do what you've always been scared to do, what you were always too secure to do, what you felt it was too risky, right? Mm-hmm. And when I felt secure in my keynotes, that was the whole, security is the new risk. Because and now I didn't think about the entire world shutting down, but what if I'd been in the hospital 6 months, or my vocal cords, died, or, whatever? What was my plan B? And so in that moment, I did get excited, because I said, wait a minute, this is my opportunity to create whatever I've been scared or resisting doing, right? And my whole thing now is gutsy. And what's your gutsy move? So in that moment, I asked, what's my gutsy move? And what do I really want to create? And it wasn't getting caught up in all of the, virtual presentations, virtual, everything, go virtual, blah, 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 and all that stuff. It was, no, let me go back and reassess and look at my goals and my dreams. And why was I just on autopilot? Why hadn't I done some of the things that, I said, quote unquote, I wanted to do? And what I discovered is I'd achieved a lot of my dreams and I hadn't created new ones. And I talk about this stuff, right? Achieve your dream, but what's your next thing? And not that we don't take time out to celebrate the achievement and to appreciate the journey. But when you don't have that, whatever it is you're striving for, sometimes you can settle into inertia, if you will, right? Not slowing down, speeding up. It's just kind of on autopilot. So I broke out my journal on an actual walk, not on my horse. And I really looked at all the different places in my life where I needed to reflect, reassess, reinvent, and then reengage, right? And eventually I'll just repeat, right? You keep repeating that process. So I want to be at home a lot more. I don't want to have to do keynotes or be out on the road. A couple months ago, I started a construction company, so I really want to engage in that. There's a franchise concept that I'm launching, and I really want to engage in that. So, I'm this budding, serial entrepreneur. So it's exciting. And keynotes are just going to be a part of what I do as a woman in business, and it won't be my entire business. So I'm really excited about what I am now creating as, my life, and how do I want to live my life, and how do I want work to be a part of my life instead of work being my life.
Oh, man, I love that. And thank you for your honesty about you saying hey, I kind of hadn't really created new dreams for myself. I think, at least for me as an entrepreneur, we get so caught up in our businesses and running those that a lot of times we don't take this reflection time that we need. I know for me, just like you being a serial entrepreneur, it's go, 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 go all the time. And when is the last time that I ever had this much time on my hands, right. And like I said, at first, I kind of felt honestly a bit lost. Same thing. I'm always helping people find their passion, what's your authentic path? And here I'm sitting here in my office staring at my computer going, wait, what? And you're sitting here and you're reflecting going okay, well, I have a company that you absolutely can't move it online. Everyone's like, oh, how could you move it online? I'm like, it's an equipment rental company. I can't move it online. It's large equipment. I was like, it's shut down. So I have to get creative and try other things, and as you mentioned, the whole loan thing, I saw this evolving too. And I didn't take my own advice either. I thought, it'll blow over. Yeah, it's fine. They've never shut down before in my 18 years I've owned a company. We'll be fine. And then a week in, 2 weeks in, I was saying dang it, I felt it. I should have followed it, but I didn't, And so everything you're saying is resonating with me, because I've been sitting here evaluating myself okay, what do I need to change if something like this happened again? What are the things that I've been thinking about wanting? And, what you're talking about, I got reflect, reassess, reinvent. And what was the other part of it?
Reflect, reassess, reinvent, reengage, repeat.
That's awesome. So, this is just inspiring to me, because I think, I get emails constantly, hey, Julie, what can I do? You've been doing this, so forth. And I found myself as well sitting here going, well, let me first give myself some advice, because before I give you advice, I'm doing the same thing. And so I love hearing that. Now, you mentioned you have a new construction company, and let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, that's something totally different than obviously your keynotes. And how did that come about?
Well, I have several friends that are in construction, and I was looking at creating and growing a business that I could hire people, a program manager, form, all that kind of stuff, where I didn't have to be over or let's say in the daily workings of the business, but I could run and own the business. Because again, how am I looking at diversifying? And, a lot of government entities and corporate America want veteran-owned businesses to participate. So I said, hey, sign me up, right?
Yeah.
And I had people in the construction business that could mentor me and that I could joint venture with as well. So, a big thing that I always tell people is don't reinvent the wheel and leverage your strategic advantage. So since I had somebody that I could partner with and that could show me the ropes, and I have something the government and corporate America is actively looking for. Yeah. I mean, I just had the recipe for, I wouldn't say the perfect storm, but, for everything meeting the opportunity preparation creates, breakthroughs.
Yeah, I love that because, it's not something that exactly was in your wheelhouse, right? But you were like, hey, how can we make this happen? Which, that's something that right now, for those of you listening, maybe what you've been doing for 20 years, it's not, you can't do it right now. But what can you do? To go from, where you're at to say like, hey, the government has a need. Why don't I fill that need and get some experts to surround me and we make this happen? I love that because a lot of people would go, well, construction, I don't know anything about construction. I can't go into that. But some of the greatest, multi-billionaire people we knew nothing when they went into the industry, right? Like Sarah Blakely. She didn't know anything about business. She didn't have a degree in it. She's going up against the biggest like underwear people known to man. And, I remember talking and saying, yeah, the best thing is they underestimated me because I had no business degree. I had no experience, had nothing, and I love that because,
right.
See a need, fill a need, right? If someone's sitting there going, hey, I really want to give money away to someone, but no one's filling the need. Well, shoot, I'll figure out how to fill that need. Like, I just think that's a great thing to do. So that's awesome. And
if I could say something real quick, Julie, to that is I didn't know how to be a cop before I became a cop, but it's something I wanted. So, said, okay, let me go that direction. I didn't know how to be a Marine. They teach you how to be a Marine. I didn't know how to be a pilot. They teach you how to be a pilot. Mm-hmm. Like there are so many things I didn't know how to do. I said, this is what I want. Then I took the steps to go that direction. I didn't know how to be an entrepreneur and a business person. I've been a cop and a Marine my entire life. I didn't know anything about business and profit and loss and all of that stuff. I said, this is what I want. I went that direction, and then I figured it out on the way by getting coaches and mentors that had the knowledge. There was no need for me to reinvent the wheel when there were already successful seven-figure people out there. I wanted to be a seven-figure person, speaker, business owner. So I found seven-figure mentors, leaders, coaches to show me how to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, and it's so true. And, I think I want to dispel the myth. A lot of times women think that when they're climbing their way to the top, that they can't accept help. I've seen that a lot. I always say if we could just join our forces together, how powerful we would be. And I've definitely worked with some women that were like, don't touch me, don't talk to me, stay away from me. I earned this, you didn't, get in line. And, I think that's a myth we have to dispel, is that women often think that if they ask for help, it's a weakness.
I don't know why, Julie. I don't know why that is a myth. All I know is the statistic. Most women-owned businesses do not make over $50,000 a year. Why? Because they try to do it all themselves, and they don't create team around their business. And why is this? Because when they try to bring somebody on, oh, it'll take too long, I just do it myself, or oh, you won't do it like I would do it, I'll just do it myself. And that's not the answer. Again, that's statistically speaking, that's why most women-owned businesses do not make over $50,000 a year. If there's anything being a cop and a Marine taught me, it's teamwork and how working as a team accomplishes the mission.
Yeah.
I just had to say that part.
No, it's true. It's true. And, the biggest thing I think as women we have to do is get the chip off of our shoulder, and really partner with people and not be afraid to say, I don't know how to do it, but I'm willing to figure it out, and I agree with you. I mean, you and I both mentor a lot of women in business. And, that's one of the things that I see them get hung up on all the time, is being willing to, as you say, get gutsy, take the extra step, get outside of your box, willing to be criticized. It's never fun to be criticized. And I don't mean in a bad way, but you got to let it happen. It's the only way that we grow. Someone has to tell me, hey, you're not doing it right. Or let me show you a better way to do it, And I would say you got to put that pride down, man, and let people help you. Our good friend Karen mentioned one time that she was trying to get on this bus and she had all this luggage and she was having a hard time getting on it. And the bus driver was like, let me help you. And she's like, no, I got it. I got it. Right. And she always tells this story because she's like, later I was like, what was I thinking? Why didn't I let the guy help me get my bags onto the bus? She said,
right.
And she was like, I struggled for so long trying to get all these bags on by myself and everyone was watching me and I was so stubborn about it. And she was like, it was so silly because I should have just let him help me. He was just trying to be helpful. And I think it's a good analogy of how we are sometimes. Here we are struggling, all these people around us like, hey, I'll take a bag for you. Let me help you out with it. And we're like, no, I got it. And as you mentioned, I mean, women, I think we're the worst defenders of this, So I just think it's a great point you made about that is, and what I really love is now's the time to reinvent. Like you said, you got excited when people lose their jobs, which sounds funny, but so true, right? Like how many times has someone been let go and then they build $1 million company because they just needed someone to fire them, right?
Right. That's exactly right. And the last recession created more millionaires than decades before.
Isn't that crazy?
Exactly because of that.
I know. I mean, it's just so crazy. I'm in the midst of working actually on a new company, which since everything is patent pending, I can't really talk about it much, but something I've been thinking about for 10 years. And it was like, same thing again. I needed something to happen. And I finally went, why have I not been doing this? I've been thinking about it for 10 years. And that kind of like really gave me a realistic view of like, I could have done this 10 years ago. It's this great thing that I should have done. And so I'm in the midst of doing it. But I look at that and go, I could have been killing it with this so long ago. But it took, some other things getting pushed out of my business life for me to go, well, I've got time to do it now. So, same thing again. I just see that. So it will be interesting when we come out of this, because we're going to come out of this, what's going on and see what new innovative things have been created because of this, nationwide shutdown.
Right. And the world shut down, really. And there's just one thing I want to say here, too, when I was talking about the reflect, reassess. We're in a global shutdown, and it is your option for it to be a personal slowdown. And I encourage people to slow down, to do the reflect, reassess, and to not just blow through this moment. For a lot of people, they're busier now than ever. Because let's say on the personal side, you have 4 kids, you're a single parent, or you have 4 kids, and you have a partner at home, and it's crazy, and you're homeschooling, and it's like go, and it's all this stuff. And try to take out some time, get the kids on a schedule, get them in the bed by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Take out some time for yourself to really reflect on this moment, to reflect on the time with your kids that you never would have had otherwise. And I totally get that some people are up against the wall with how we're going to pay rent or mortgage or car note. But what is this moment for you personally? And that's for everybody listening to the sound of my voice. Are we taking out time to really think about our lives, where we are, and how we are going to get to wherever it is we want to be? That's all.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I said the other day to my husband, normally I would give anything to have this much time with you guys. So I should be enjoying it and not stressing about it. And it's so true.
Well, what's stressing going to do? What anxiety is just feeling like you've failed right now in the moment. You're just living the failure before it's happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So true. So we've been working really hard as a family to just have fun together, have fun,
right?
Laugh, watch movies, take walks, all the stuff we don't get to do. And it's so true. So true. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on this podcast. Thank you for sharing what's going on in your life, your tips. It's all very inspiring and supportive, because a lot of times people think, hey, the people at the top, they're good, they got it made, they're good to go. And to hear that you're constantly reassessing and reinventing and reevaluating your life is just, gives me a lot of positive energy to say, hey, that's something that I can keep doing as well. And I think if I remember,
absolutely,
I remember your grandma has a saying that you say a lot that I was hoping we could close this podcast out with, if I remember it right.
Absolutely. She would always say something good's going to come out of this.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll have all of Vernice's links down below, so you can get to those links in case you didn't catch them while you're driving or listening to this. But remember to live, love, laugh, and always be your authentic self.